Throughout human history, people have argued about their religious beliefs. After a certain stage, people become very ardent and fanatical about their beliefs and then start to argue or even go to war over those who disagree with them. This was less pronounced in the East than it has been in the West, but nevertheless it happened in the East as well. It's just that there, no one religion got the psychological stranglehold over society as happened in the West. And so after a while, the wise, those who know, decided that they would not use religious images, religious motifs, to teach the great work of how to become perfected, how to attain enlightenment, because it would only attract bad attention from ecclesiastical authorities. And so they hit upon using a non-religious code, something that was familiar enough to people in some senses, but wouldn't push buttons. And so what they did was they used the code of metals and metallurgy, the refinement of metals through heating, through hammering, the beginnings of what we would call later on chemistry in a certain sense. And so by avoiding religious motifs at all, they could safely pass their teachings down through the ages and generations. Of course, it meant that unless the person receiving those teachings understood what the code was, they were stuck. And that has been the same right up until the current time. And this is why the ancients would say that the Kabbalah is the key to alchemy, and not just ordinary Kabbalah, not just straightforward tree of life. That's just the beginning of those things, of the actual assignment of qualities and powers and aspects of the mind, soul, and the spirit to various significations. Now, some of this already existed, some of these assignments already existed. So, from the medieval period, there was this idea of certain metals were ruled by certain planets. Remember, in those days, as far as this solar system was concerned, they were only aware of 7 planets. Uranus and Neptune and Pluto hadn't been discovered. And so what they would do is they would assign the planets to the various subtle centres that are present in the etheric astral bodies. And so with the first chakra in the pelvic girdle, this was assigned to Saturn, whose metal was lead. In the navel centre, the second chakra, this was assigned to the planet Mars, whose metal is iron. And then to the solar plexus is assigned to Jupiter, whose metal is tin. Understandably, the chakra of the heart chakra, is assigned to gold and the planet of the sun. And like the sun, like gold, it's incorruptible. So already you begin to understand this idea of changing lead, first chakra, 1, 2, 3, fourth chakra, heart. Already you can see there's this idea of elevation. And then to the throat center, the throat chakra is assigned to the planet Venus, whose metal is copper. The brow center, the 6th chakra, is assigned to the moon, whose metal is silver. And finally, the 7th chakra, assigned to Mercury, whose metal is mercury, or as it's sometimes called, quicksilver. And so already those who were instructed by teachers in alchemy already began to understand this idea of refinement and of lifting up and of moving. And so that these centres could be then understood and worked with. Now, if you've looked at any alchemical books, the old ones, you will see that in every single case they talk about the huge importance of mercury or quicksilver. That it's by the mercury, our mercury, that the work is completed. Now, of course, this led to all kinds of craziness. It did in Chinese alchemy too. The first emperor of China, a monstrous person, responsible for huge numbers of deaths. But I suppose everybody must be grateful that he wanted to have eternal life. And his alchemists, who were quacks, or else they had a different plan, they told him that the metal mercury was the secret to immortality. So, of course, he started to drink it. Well, ordinary mercury is poisonous. And so he soon passed. Having said that, this is a bit of fun. Having said that, advanced Ayurveda, which is the medical system developed in Vedic India and refined even further in Tibetan Buddhism, there, to this day, they have learnt how to purify mercury to such an extent that not only is it not dangerous to humans, he heals cancers and AIDS and things that the West hasn't even managed to do yet. So, but staying with the symbolism, the seventh chakra, Mercury, notice that on the tree of life is the radiance of Keter, the divine spirit of the human being. So what it's saying is, any influence from the divine spirit brought down through the layers of the body, through consciousness, into our being, will purify those centres and uplift them, and eventually leads to increasing stages of insight, refinement, enlightenment. So even in that particular sense. And then furthermore, there's a wonderful alchemical picture, which I'll try and find to show you sometime, which it's a medieval picture from Germany, and there's a tree, and sitting at the bottom of the tree is a winged figure with a crown, angel, higher self, and standing, talking to the angel, is an alchemist in ordinary clothes for the period. And the angel is sitting down but pointing behind him to the bottom of the tree trunk. And there are two very interesting things there if you know your alchemical code. Firstly, in the tree trunk, there's an opening in which a fire is burning, as if it was an ordinary domestic fire in somebody's home. And beneath the brazier, the fire, encircling the very bottom of the trunk, is a golden crown. Corona inversus, arbor inversus, the upside down tree. Now, any Kabbalist will tell you that the tree of life is hanging upside down. The very top that you see, Keter, the white, is actually the root of the tree. The central column and the branches, they come down and spread out, and there are the spheres, the sephirot, which are fruit. Finally, down to Malkut at the very bottom. Malkut is the physical creation. or thinking in terms of the microcosm, the small, it's the individual human being. And Malkut is the fragile blossom on the tree of life. But the root is Keter, which draws unimaginable strength from the absolute and thus brings creation into being. So this German picture, in that one thing, but of course you need to know all the symbolism to tumble it. But those who are instructed would look at it straight away and go, he's talking about the tree of life. And there's the fire, because the fire has to be brought up the spinal column, up the tree trunk, to purify all the senses. The fire, of course, is Kundalini. It's not about burning fire. It's about radiant energy being deliberately brought in through breath work, pranayama, the billows by which the fire is made hotter. So through breath work, the inner fire is exalted and brought up, and the inner centres are done. And all of this is explained and taught how to in the book Tao of Alchemy. It gives the theory, so there's enough to understand, but more important, for the first time, it gives the full praxis, the full way in which it is done. You can achieve areas of alchemical exaltation and ability by following correctly the instructions and applying the teachings in Tao of Alchemy, which is why it is subtitled An Advanced Guide to the Great Work. Avail yourself of it and grow towards light.